This video is going to be a shit show, let me tell you right now. Is here, see what I mean, starting already. So using the tools that came with the laser, I'm going to start obviously at the top and take off the high piece, which is the adjuster that holds the laser head and the focus lasers. And you know, I almost thought that I was just going to get out my screw gun with my bits and make this rip fast. But then I thought, I'm not going to do anything crazy just in case there's an issue, so I can't be told by the warranty company that I shouldn't have done that, and sorry Charlie, buy a new one. I'm working on top of my table saw with some cardboard down because the shop is just full right now. So it'll do. Too loose for the wrench, too tight for your fingers. Story of my life. So I'm very confident that this is going to correct the problem, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do when this is all said and done and fixed. Is the old laser source that's in here, I'm going to crack that puppy open and see what's going on in there, because I've been dying to know what makes all this power. I've got my lens cap on to make sure we don't have that issue. And I think what we're going to do next is take off this conduit. Again, in the first video that I made with this, I don't know why this is so bloody long. But I can tell you I'm glad it is, because I have an idea where I'm going to decompact this, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, if you want to engrave, say, the top of a hammer, there's not enough focus distance between the laser head and the base to get that done, between here and up here. So what I'm thinking of doing is segregating the two, putting this off to the side, mounting this to a table, something I'll build, and I'll build a part in the table that you can adjust up and down. So you won't have to touch this to focus. You'll just crank on the table will come up or down, and you can put in much taller objects. Alright, so now we're going to take off the lid. And see, 360 degree turns. I like that. Look how dirty that is for how short of a time I've had it. But it keeps debris from falling down into the electronics. We'll tilt this up a little bit to give you all a peek of what's going on in here. And there's quite a bit of stuff in here. And I got to tell you, this fan has become noisy. One other thing I'm going to do, and I really hope that the camera is showing you what I'm hoping it is. Okay, cool. Is this wire, somebody asked me about this, and it's my understanding that it's an additional ground if you don't have a ground in your electrical connections where you live. And everything is an Allen wrench. I thought for sure that would be a Phillips. And there is a nut on the back side, which is awesome. Because, yeah, my electrical system in the shop is relatively new, and I definitely made sure I had a proper ground. So I have absolutely no use for this wire. Alright, so that's that. Get that out of the way, and it looks like we're going to have to go And wouldn't you know it, they're Allen wrenches too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get one of my Snap-on T-wrenches so that I can get these out without fighting it like... Alright, so here's a fun fact. This comes from way too long being an automotive tech. But Allen heads and Torx are friendly. T15 will fit these screws, and we'll pull out these 4 Allen heads with our Torx drive. My wife used to bust my chops. Why do you got to spend so much money in tools? Why do you need that? Why do you need this? Well, this is why. You'd be hard pressed to get these out with the regular Allen wrench, I can tell you that. Okay, and that connector in the back that I mentioned in the first video with the gold pins just pops out. Kind of put that somewhere safe because it's blocking one of the screws. And I gotta tell you, I'm dying to crack this open. I was concerned because I've worked in warranty as well, and a lot of times they want old parts back to make sure you're not playing reindeer games, trying to rip them off, and I get it. So I did email them between the first email and getting this today, asking them if they wanted the old one back, and they said no. So it's kind of fair game. Should have had all this prepared so it wasn't so. And those are my dogs that I'm babysitting. What a joy, let me tell you. And this one they just wire tie to itself. How convenient. But I'm gonna tell you, man, when this laser was working the way it was when I first got it, it really, really surpassed my expectations. Alright, so I just looked at the new laser source and I've made a command decision. This is the harness that comes out of the back, the front, I guess it's the back, and there's 3 wires. One goes here and the other 2 go over here. The ones that they sent me are not long enough, and you can see here where they splice them. This blue one and this brown one that run all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, now mind you, I did wiring on fire trucks for several years, and I'm very comfortable doing this. If you're not, or God forbid you have to do this, I don't recommend it. But let me grab a good pair of cutters and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so after further investigation, I found that this might be a bit of a nightmare to connect, because this wire is actually embedded in the case. So I'm going to take my super duper sharp razor and I'm going to cut this without cutting me. Like I said, I wired fire trucks, pumps, lights, switches, generators, shore power, auto ejects, and you just got to take your time and you have to look at everything really close because you don't want to nick the wires that are important. So there we've got those exposed. Cut that piece off, and we'll look to make sure I didn't cut any of the important wires. Everything looks good. So we're going to strip these down, and we're going to do this correctly. We're not going to put twisty ties and electrical tape and all that stuff. We're going to use shrink butt connectors. And these are seriously about as good as you can get, you know, once you've got a wire that's cut. And since this isn't susceptible to the elements, if it were, you don't want to squeeze this so close or so tightly that you penetrate this plastic, because that's going to make a spot for moisture to get in, and that's bad. And I always hold the wire and give a little tug on the connector to make sure that I've got a strong connection. People underestimate how important it is to have a great connection on electrical things, especially on grounds, because if you have a poor connection, they get hot, they melt, and they definitely fail. Now I've got this thing, I've got actually two of them that I bought at the big box store, Home Depot. And I hate the safety, and usually what I do is hold the safety down with one hand until it lights. And you don't want to overdo it with these, because these shrink pretty well, and they actually smell pretty good. Now that's a great connection, and not only that, but it really looks like you knew what you were doing and you cared when you did it. So what we're going to wind up doing is cutting off of the new one, just like we did here, and join them here, and then we'll hide them so that, and that saves you a ton of effort trying to unscrew all these screws and wherever these other wires go. You just join up color to color, do exactly what I did here, and you're going to be good to go. I'm a one-man pony. I don't have camera crews and all that working for me. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these 4 screws out of here and get this arm off, and then I'm going to start to disassemble this laser head, for lack of better words. Phillips head screws here, Allen head here, Phillips here, Phillips here, Phillips here. So you just take stuff apart, and again, this is coming from an auto tech with decades of experience. You just take things apart until you get to the point where you can access the part that you're replacing. Get this apart and we'll be right back. Upstate New York, it's 48 degrees in the shop, but I'm dedicated, doggone it. So what we're going to do is take off this piece. Alright, so what fits these Allen heads is a Torx T25. And again, we want to keep everything segregated. And, alright, I was just thinking, if there's a focal length adjustment on this, because this replacement part came with 0 instructions. And just a heads up, you only have to take out the back 2. Okay, I see. So, there's 4 screws here, but there's also these 3, and I guess that's where the other one came from. This has to be for adjusting it. Sweet Jesus, I haven't a clue how to adjust this. But what we're going to do is get this laser head out of here. And I'm going to take a picture with my cell phone and then try to match up the new one as closely as I can. And hopefully I don't have to play reindeer games with this. Okay, and these are the T15s as well. I'm looking at this, and it looks like it might actually be 2 pieces. So these Allen wrenches come with a laser. They're from OMTech. Okay, and as it appeared, these are 2 pieces. Can you all see that, or did I just waste both of our time? No, you can see it. Not great, but you can see it. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is, and this is going to be a crazy long video, I didn't expect this, so I apologize. So thankfully I took the picture, and we're going to have to take, not with that though, with the 15 Torx, we're going to have to take this out of here. Oh my God, this better work. And then slide that out. And you know what's cool is this lens here looks perfect. I don't see any boo-boos on it whatsoever. So now let's untangle this. And that's going to be a chore, I believe. Alright guys, so for the sake of time, I snaked the new laser head through the hole. And it's time to put in the new laser source. And I'm going to tell you right now that this yellow cable, you do not want to kink that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take off this cover. And like I said, we're going to double check the wires underneath to make sure that we didn't hurt anything. Again, a little tug to make sure we've got a good connection. Wires go color to color. Blue to blue, brown to brown, green yellow to green yellow. It's actually pretty cut and dry once you're comfortable doing this kind of stuff. So there we have that. Can you see that? Alright, good. So we've got perfect connections. Color to color. These are all shrunk down well, and they're not going to short out. You're very safe with these as long as you don't punch holes through the plastic that shrinks. Put it around your bit. That's going to jack up the size of your tool. And it's going to fit in here snugly so that that doesn't fall off when you're trying to put it back down through where it belongs. And I think what we're going to do next is put back on these pieces. So let me get this back on. I'm going to put the lid back on. And boy, they like to leave long wires, which I'm not going to complain about. Because if you ever have to splice something together, you've got it. And you know what I am going to check to make sure that this ground screw is snug? Is not as snug as I'd like to see it. Alright, so we're getting there, guys. And yeah, like I said, let me get this cover back on and we'll start with the rest of it. So I just looked at the time and I'm like, oh my God, I must blab a lot or this actually takes a long time to do. So anyway, we can get rid of the fits all since it does fit. But that's not the case. Now, what we need to do is uncoil this laser head yellow cable. Nice and careful, like, because we have to get it back into the plastic conduit. And like I said, I'm sure this is the fiber optic. And it's got to be 8 feet long, literally. And you don't want to hurt this, you don't want to kink this, because if you screw that fiber optic up, you're in deep trouble. So thankfully, and again, I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing. Thankfully, I didn't clean this piece off here, so I can see approximately where this goes. But I'm going to wipe it down now because this dust is going to drive me up a wall. And will this fit through? Nope, you got to take off the little protector. And I'm going to look at my photo to see which end was up. I want this to be as close to... Great! There's a yellow sticker on the upside of the old one here, okay, which is 180 degrees from the serial number. So this needs to go like this. Yeah, like that. Now we're going to zoom in on our photo and see exactly where this needs to go. Then we're going to start to put our screws back in. We'll get it snugged down in place anyway. And boy, you can move this a little bit to the left and right. And I know from my CO2 laser that if things are off just a little bit, you've got an issue. Power-wise, that is. We're basically in the same spot. You know what we're going to do? We're going to protect the original one with the new one's little condom. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is, because you've seen this disassembled, I'm going to reassemble everything, get it set back up, put the conduit back on, and we're going to try it. Alright, so we're all back together, we're hooked to light burn, we're plugged in, and you and I are going to find out if this worked. So we're going to turn it on now, and remember what I said about that constant run cooling fan. I didn't call it a constant run cooling fan, but it was kind of noisy. So I'm sure that's not going to change because we didn't do anything with it. So yeah, it sounds worse than ever. So let me find a piece of scrap metal. Actually, it sounds a little better. Let us focus. What's going to tell if this is the fix or not is we're going to run it in continuous mode and see what happens. And this is just, like I said, a piece of scrap steel. So here we go, the first try, guys. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Let's turn it on, I guess. It's going to get a little noisy, but let's see what happens. And like I said, we're going to run this continuously, and with the old setup, it kind of died off after about 2 passes. So let's see what happens. Here we go. Well, it's working and it's extremely bright, so I feel pretty good so far. And you can see all the little sparks flying, which means it's tossing material. This is the 6th pass. Still sounds good. just so you know, this is 100%, I'm sorry, 100 inches per second speed, 85 power, and 50 frequency. I'm out here in the shop on this chilly Monday night, November 4th, 2024, and it's about 50 degrees out here right now. But I can tell you, compared to the other fiber source, this is really doing a good job. This is 17 passes we're at now. We're gonna pause it, take a look, and we're gonna have to calibrate our lens again because we're quite a bit off. And that's no big deal. If you look at where the framing is to where we're cutting, you can see that, like I said, it's quite a bit off. But I know how to do that, and we're going to take care of that. So let's reset the count and see if it'll go another 18 passes without petering out. This is 5, and I can just tell by how bright the laser light is that this has been solved. Power loss is a thing of the past. Hopefully it stays this way. All right, that's past 16. And yeah, I can tell you now just by looking at the depth of the engrave that we're good to go. Like I said, let's hope it stays that way. Guys, if you hung in there through this entire show, I appreciate it. I really do. And you guys have a great night, and we'll talk soon. Take care now.